Welcome to another episode of Get Real with Jack and Cindy. I'm Cindy Morrison.
And I'm Jack Wallace. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We so appreciate you guys coming back and sticking with us. And it's really a joy to get to talk to you every week. And we've been talking to the president of our company the last couple of weeks and getting a lot of great information. And we really thought it'd be kind of fun to bring in. We've talked about the management and coaching, and we talked a lot about Cheryl doing that coaching, and now we have sort of the next generation of Go Girl Power of coaching and Sara Ott. Thank you for being here, Sara.
With us. Yes, she is.
This is my first podcast.
Oh, really?
Very exciting.
Yes. Thank you for letting us be the first. I appreciate
I
it.
probably should have told you that.
Why does everyone think I'm so awful?
I work with you.
Fair.
So Sara is the broker at our midtown office. We have 16, 17 offices.
We have 14, I believe.
Yeah. 14 offices.
14.
Each of
Cindy's
them have,
expanding.
Yeah, already in my mind, I have us at the next level.
The beach.
Maybe.
And the beach.
Wait,
yeah.
no, actually,
We do have at the beach, in Florida.
We might actually be at 15 now with Florida.
That's
Okay.
True.
Yes.
That's true.
So 15, each of them has their own broker. So you always have somebody you can go to and get help. And then we have
AKA manager. Yeah.
Yes. And then we have traveling brokers that'll fill in. So actually you can have a life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning that one. Having a life.
Which is also partially why we wanted to do this, because you watched our very first podcast and talked about how much you liked hearing our story and how we got into the business and what motivated us and what keeps us in the business. And so Cindy and I talked about would be really fun to have people like you do the same thing. Like let's just talk about what brought you into the business of real estate, which I don't think you can do without talking about all the things that you were and are before and where you came from. So, and you're from California
I am
originally.
from California, born and raised there.
Wow. What part?
So I lived in the Central Valley, kind of by Bakersfield. I always
Valley
say
girl.
Bakersfield because that is the big city and it's still a small town, but I was actually raised in Delano, which is a teeny tiny small farm town.
Wow.
Which no one expects that from me. Like you say California, they're like lights, cameras,
Yeah.
actions, the beach,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no.
It's funny too, because it's like Oklahoma, they think of one thing and then they come to Tulsa and they're like, what? Okay, this is very different. It's like an actual city.
Tulsa is the big city to me.
It is. And you know what? We really are becoming one. I mean, it's sort of interesting.
We're more than 1 million now.
Yeah. I mean, because when I grew up in Tulsa, it was Bakersfield. It was little. Like it was not. And now it really is. Like I'm in traffic going, oh my gosh, where are all these people coming from? And where'd they go to high school?
Yeah.
Well, and we left earlier this morning. I said, thank you both for driving to North Dallas for my Brokers Open last night, because you guys are in Midtown, and where the houses are being built at 151st and Sheridan was, fields just a few years ago. So you really had a little hike to
See, that doesn't bother me. I love that about, I think it's so fun to be a part of a city that's on that growth trajectory.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to your parents still in that area?
And we're back.
Yes, my parents are still there. They live in the home that they bought when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so it's always fun to go back home. And it's one thing I love about homes is you create memories there. And I can still walk that house probably with my eyes shut. I just know my way around it still to this day.
My mom still lives in the house that I grew up in too. And it's interesting because it's in some ways it's haunted with all the memories, good and bad, but it's also sort of interesting because it's just like, you just kind of feel like you can touch the past and
my room still looks like it did when I was a teenager, which
and just give it another 20 some years and it even has more meaning. I mean, it really does, because it's just like, there's so many things that change and that one thing that's consistent is that. So
and I just moved my mom 2 years ago out of the home where I grew up.
Oh wow! So you really did too. Yeah.
She'd been there 50 years.
Really?
Yeah.
My parents they'll be like that. I think.
My mom's. Yeah. It had. I was in kindergarten.
Yeah, I was too.
And I'm 28 now. So quite a while. Anyway, so you were there. How long were you in California? And
So I left California when I would have been 27 is when I moved to Oklahoma.
And what made you come from California to Tulsa?
A guy.
There's always a guy.
There's always a guy. That's
Yeah.
how you got me.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And
so what did you do in California, like as an adult? Then before, were you in real estate there?
I wasn't. I was actually in finance. I actually, for a credit union, I headed up like their auditing for their loan department.
Oh, cool.
So I did that. And then I also worked for like a private jet firm. So like a fixed space.
That's
That is
fun.
really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I really love that. But my background really is in ministry. My grandfather pastored a church in California. So I was raised in that world. And I, even did
Oh, wow.
go into some ministry as an adult.
So it's always been a people oriented. I mean, you were in service or.
My whole life.
Yeah, that's
So-
cool.
And
It's
I
funny
think-
how we talked about how you like it's the sum of the parts and everything you do, but it's like at the end of the day, we're about houses, but we're really about people.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Oh, yes. And I think I pull from that so much today. I think it really helped me in open houses and just talking to people because I'm so used to talking to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Being the granddaughter, I was like, you have to go introduce yourself to visitors. And if there were visiting ministers or in their children, you had to be that friend to them.
Interesting.
And so what people don't know about me is I'm very introverted,
Uh-huh.
but I was never allowed to be. So
Mhm.
I'm not shy. I just don't seek the limelight and
Same
attention.
thing. I'm
I
an
like
introvert.
I like
Yeah.
the difference. Introvert, not shy. Because I would say that about both of you.
Yeah.
Not me. But
I love
That's okay. That's
I
okay.
love going home and being alone.
I do too. To a point that it's kind of a problem almost. I found.
I'm an only child.
So many shows.
Yeah,
I'm an
that's
only
the thing.
child, so I'm good
We've
being
been
alone.
talking about doing another podcast just about streaming because we're all three like obsessed with watching
Oh yes.
streaming. So yeah, and Sarah and I oftentimes get here the next. We're like, we can't wait for the other one to get here to go. Oh my god, I finished it! I finished it. Anyway, so we get to Oklahoma for
We get to
the guy.
For the guy.
And that was Oklahoma City
It
originally.
was Oklahoma City. And so he was finishing up law school and I was working at a bank. I was a loan officer there
Mhm.
in Oklahoma City. And I was seeing him so passionate about, law school and he was just loving it
Mm.
and coming home every day and just being just like thrilled and like telling me about his day. And I did not feel that.
Yeah.
Even though I had the office and I was like growing into this position that I thought I wanted to work my way up into. And I had that office and every day I just hated it so
Oh,
much.
interesting.
And they made us wear pantyhose.
Oh.
They
What
did.
year was this?
Yeah, that's a killer deal for me anymore.
And I'm
Wow.
coming from
I
California.
love the direct look at the camera. If you're listening, she just looked right at the camera.
That's the
And they
worst.
made me wear pantyhose.
That's the worst part. And so, you had to wear uniforms too.
Mm.
Like they would bring in this like company that sold like work clothes.
What?
For a loan company?
Yeah, for a bank.
Like what kind of uniform?
Wow.
It was just terrible.
This sounds like TV news all
Like-
over again.
It
Like
was.
Denny's or like what?
No, they would have like these blouses and like, yeah, they were really bad.
Wow.
And so I would just buy like 5 black ones and I wore black every day with like a black pencil skirt
Wow.
and nylons. And so,
Wow.
God bless you.
yes.
Although I have to say, as I've gotten older, I'm oftentimes in my logo wear because it's like I kind of like the having a little bit of a uniform when I want to not, but I want to have the freedom to not do that whenever I want.
It was nice
Yeah.
not having to think in the morning of
Yeah,
what I was going
I
to
can
wear.
see that.
But
But
those that
still.
know me know that I love
Yeah, that is.
dressing up,
I know.
love
Yeah.
fashion. So being pigeonholed in this black blouse every day was really tough for me.
Well, the other thing very few people know about Sarah is that you are like, that is a big hobby of yours. Like you go out and you find like really good clothes and really cool designer stuff, but you find them at like Goodwill
I
and
love
Salvation
thrifting,
Army and
yes.
thrift stores. And I mean, it's unbelievable. She'll come to work and she's just decked out and she'll like go through what she paid for things. And it's, and having bought a lot of those clothes through the years, it's kind of like, I need to start going there with you. So
Well, growing up, it goes back to being a small
Okay.
town. My mother, when I was a young age, like I had big dreams, as a little girl, and she would let me subscribe to all the magazines. So I would get Vogue and Elle and Harper's Bazaar, and they would just come in, and I would just devour them.
oh, wow.
So I knew all my brands from a young age, but I couldn't afford any of them, and we would start going to thrift stores. And I would start seeing the brands and the thrift stores and recognizing them from the magazines. And that's how I just fell in love with
Oh,
clothes.
I love that. So it's kind of you had an aspirational view of the world. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting because I think sometimes we forget that part of real estate, that so many people are looking at our listings.
Yes.
In the same way that you're talking about looking at the magazine, like it's an aspirational. And like, I love it when people come to my open house and they're like, we can't afford this house, but we just wanted to come see it. I'm like, come in, come see it. I mean, like, eventually you will be able to, and I hope I can be your realtor. Yeah,
I was such a big dreamer as a kid. So in this
totally see that. Totally.
In a small town, and I would dream about being a businesswoman and all this. Sometimes I sit in my office and I'm like, I did it in my high heels.
Big business.
Yes, I got my own desk.
Bette Midler, I'm gonna fire y'all.
And then I have to come back down to reality.
I love that.
Yeah, so he was so inspired. But go back to how I got into all this. He was so inspired by his career, and I was just absolutely miserable being in a bank, and I didn't love it. It didn't spark me. I was, I'm a very creative person, and so I was just so miserable. And to his credit, he was like, quit your job. Which those that know me, I'm not a big risk taker when it comes to myself. I will just like suffer and like get the job done.
And you're not a quitter.
I'm not a quitter. Yes. So I was determined to like stick with it. And he was like, no, quit your job. Find what makes you happy. And so I've always loved interior design. So I thought I'll go to school and I'll be an interior designer. And so I went to the college, met with the counselor.
Which was my path. So I totally,
yes.
Totally get that.
And so I was like, this is the path I'm going to take. And so I saw on Instagram,
and you'd be great at it.
I love it. And so I saw an ad on Instagram, and it was a brokerage there. It was a small boutique brokerage in the urban core. And they were like, we're hiring realtors. And so I just emailed them, and I was like, I don't have my license. I know nothing about real estate. Like, I was like, but I really would love to do it.
But I love Vogue.
Everyone tells me I have the personality for it. And so they actually were like, come on in. And so I went in and I met with the owner, and she was the broker.
So how long did it take you to get your outfit together to go in and meet with her?
Oh, so long.
I can just see you going, no, this doesn't look realtor-ish.
No, this is what a businesswoman would wear.
$1 million listing.
No, I planned the whole outfit out, of course.
And watch Sarah on social media, and you'll see the amazing fashion style she has.
So I went and met with her, and she was like, we were having this conversation. And she's like, I never do this, but I'm hiring you on the spot. And she's like, I'm going to pay your salary for 3 months. I'm going to pay for you to get your license. And
wow.
And it was like within 2 weeks, I had it done because I was determined.
Don't you get that now though?
Oh yeah.
Like I totally get that now. Now you have those people. If I were a manager, I can totally see those people. Like when I can't tell you how many times I've had a waiter at a restaurant or a waitress and say, here's my card. You need to be in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be so good in real estate. And I mean, those people that you just go, you got it, you'll get it, you'll do it. So that's amazing. I love that you had that.
Yes, she just so believed in me. And so she was, she didn't have a team. So I joined her team at the time. And she threw me in and just into the deep end. And I was just so exposed to working with, new construction. And we did a lot of historical. And one thing I loved about real estate is like, we're so many things.
Mm-hmm.
We're party planners, we're, marketing experts, and we do all of these things.
Interior decorators.
Mm-hmm. And she had a staging company that was
psychiatrist.
So we did it all. I mean, we were
Uber driver.
Yeah. So I was there like cleaning houses before this and getting ready for the photographer. And it was just, I loved it.
That's so
I was
cool.
It clicked with me, and she believed in me. And so she let me just follow her everywhere. And I do believe because of her, like, this is why I'm able to be at this age in this position, because I was exposed to so much in the beginning. She let me just see it all.
That's awesome.
And I got to see the broker side of it too, because she was the broker/owner. So I got to see like how that is operated also.
So do you feel like you have the same management style that she taught you, or do you have your own management style now?
I mean, I think I'm still growing into it a little bit, but yeah, a little bit of how she is. I could see that. A lot of it comes from my past though, of just like caring for people. And I think a lot of people forget that as brokers, like we are here, like our agents go through tough things. They get discouraged, and we have to I have people just come into my office and let's just sit and talk. let's talk about your life. And, that's what I'm here for. And so I'm here to encourage people. So yeah, a little bit, but I think there is also that like, and I don't want to say ministry because I'm not like.
You can say ministry,
but
I think there's a part of that. I think that's a very good point. I mean, that's like I think there's a very spiritual side to this for me, because I do, and Cindy and I always talk about this, and we're the same age, kind of the same background, and it's just growing up in a time when a lot of people were told they couldn't do things. Makes it where we are like, oh, the hell you can't.
Yeah.
We're going to show you the keys to the kingdom. And so I think that it is a ministry in a way to say,
absolutely,
no matter where you come from, no matter what your education level, whatever, you can do this and you can provide for yourself and always take care of yourself. So I think that
regardless of education,
how is that
background,
not a
anything
ministry,
else.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this business, is because the path for me was always ministry, and that's what I was going to go into, and that's just what I thought about. And I never, like, I dreamed of being a businesswoman, but I never saw that as an option. It was like, you're just going to go into ministry and this is going to be your path. So my life has taken a completely different path from that, but I love this business.
But God works in many ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that this business, it's not like you have to go to college and you have to have a degree. Like, you can be whatever you want in this business and you can make it as amazing as possible. And I think there are so many single women in this business, single mothers that have such successful careers, and that they're making more than people with degrees. And I love to see that. And I'm and
they're working for it.
They're working so hard for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. It's very equivalent to the effort and the time that you put into it. But if you're willing to do those things, if you're willing to be patient and build your reputation and continue to not give up, that is a lot. And so to me, that's, if you think about what ministry and what we all like, it is the story of resurrection. I mean, and I think of that a lot. There are so many times whenever you feel like, that the story of Christ is that he was crucified and he rose, right? So I think so much of the time there's that part of it when it comes to life that we have to remind people, look, you have been burned to the ground, but you can rise and you can do this. So I think I think that's a very understated part of business in general, and successful business. But I think especially with ours, I think there's a lot of that because it is so personal, and you're dealing with people who have gone through horrible traumas, divorce, death, all those things, and they are looking for hope and the next chapter. So I think I do think there's a lot of that kind of, you have training how to facilitate that based on some of that. That's interesting.
I genuinely care about people. It's something
it shows, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I knew that the moment I met you.
All my agents feel that way, that they I genuinely care about them, and not just their business and their numbers, that I care about them as people. Like, I see when they're at the computer, and I see when they're getting burnt out, and I'm like, hey, just come in, let's just talk. Like, what do you got going on?
Do you think having the minister family also, you also have to be able to have empathy for people and do that, but you have to also be able to leave it and continue to not just absorb that all the time. So that was probably good training too, for where you can,
you have to have some Teflon.
So where you can maintain enough of a healthy balance for yourself, but yet be empathetic and help them. Yeah. So that's awesome.
I think it's just having the skills to recognize. I think from a young age, being surrounded by ministry and hearing the conversations of sometimes I overheard conversations I probably shouldn't have overheard as a young kid. So I would see how I would know that somebody is dealing with something, and I would recognize how they're reacting and how their actions are. And I can spot that in people when people are hurting.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see that now. It taught me to be kind of on the lookout for that.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize, our office, we don't talk about this often. I mean, we just really don't.
But it's from the heart.
It's from the heart, and we're talking about it kind of under where you come from. So it's not like that our office is, totally into what we're talking about right this minute, but this is an interesting thing organically from, and also we're all from Oklahoma or Texas. So, I mean, we get it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was raised in church, like at church all the time, and it shocked me how much you'll talk about God here.
From California, yeah, that
Yes.
makes
Welcome
sense.
to the Bible Belt.
At the bank that I started working at, and they had a prayer meeting after like a staff meeting, and I was just like, "This is so wrong."
Oh, when you came to Oklahoma,
Yes, I was like, you should not be doing this. I was raised in church, and I was just like appalled.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. I would never have thought, but that does make sense. 'Cause
Yes.
coming from a more liberal, not like that
Oh,
state,
absolutely.
then you
It was
were.
very separate. So I had church and then I had work, and like they just did not mix. And then I came here and I'm like, y'all are mixing. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah, that's
Nice
so
big
interesting.
cocktail,
Yeah.
mixing it up. Mm-hmm.
Love
Just,
it.
I mean, so it took me a minute because I was just like, and everybody's just praying, and I'm like, the person who was raised in church and ministry is like standing there, like, should I be praying right now? What are we doing?
But it's also in the California Oklahoma thing, because there was so many, the Dust Bowl, the
Oh,
Grapes
yes.
of Wrath was all about all the people who had to
Which
leave
is how my
Oklahoma and
grandma
migrate.
ended up out there. Yes.
Right. So there's such a connection between
Uh-huh.
California and Oklahoma. And like, I had so many friends growing up who had relatives in California, or they had. So I mean, it's sort of interesting. And they were like in Bakersfield, and
Yes,
they weren't
that
LA, they
spot
weren't
is
San
very,
Francisco. They were more those kind of areas.
Yes.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So then you were working for the bank, and you decided to go into this. And then so from that, how did you grow your business then once you started in that in Oklahoma City, starting in the business?
It was a lot of hard work.
Okay.
And I think that
It always is, you know?
there's this misconception that we're just out here having fun working like 2 hours a day, and that is so false. I have like agents come in and they're like, yeah, I just want a flexible schedule. I'm like, oh no, it's you that needs to be flexible. Like,
Yeah.
we can kind of wiggle our schedule around to fit personal appointments sometimes, but I've shown homes on Christmas. I've shown homes on Thanksgiving.
I liken it to a minister, kind of going back to that. Our Pastor Tom would always say, well, I only work a few hours on Sunday, because they're visiting the hospital and,
there's
all
so
the things
much
that they're
that's
doing.
not seen
Right.
in this business
Mhm.
that, we post the highlights, but we're not showing like the day-to-day grind. I am so attached to my phone. To this point, we're like, people who aren't in real estate, when they don't respond, I'm like, this is ridiculous, because I
Yeah.
always have my phone on me, and I just imagine that people don't.
Mhm.
I struggle with that. But so I worked really hard, and I remember at one point I didn't have a day off for 3 months.
Oh yeah.
I did open houses every Sunday. I showed houses every day, and social media was so big starting out.
Mhm.
Like, I posted every day. I like everything that I could to make people know that I was like tied into this world. I was the busiest.
You wanted it.
Oh, I wanted
Yeah.
it so
I
bad.
think that's the thing too. Social media for realtors, if it's effective, in my opinion, is showing people, I want this.
Mhm.
I want it to the point that I'm going to show you how much I'm out there grinding to do this and to build my business. It is not about, look at how successful I am. Oh my gosh, I'm so pretty. I'm so great. It is, I am out there and I'm putting myself out there. I'm working. I'm sitting here.
And
I'm
I'm
doing
educating
this.
you.
I'm showing
I'm giving
these
you
houses.
information.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the
Oh,
effectiveness of
yes.
social media, not just the hello.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like the biggest, like the busiest non-producing agent out there. All over the place. Just
But
like,
Perception is reality.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, your business is going so great. You're so busy. And
That's where
I'm
you
like,
go.
in the beginning, I was like, I haven't
I
even
am.
sold a house, but I was just out there hustling.
Now I wish I could afford pantyhose. I might wear them if I could.
So it was just all the time, and everything that I would go to, like restaurant openings or like little shop openings, anything that was going on in the city, I wanted to be tied into it. Because too, I wasn't a native, so I didn't have a sphere. I didn't have friends.
Which is also Cheryl Chinowth. She came to Oklahoma within I think the first 2 years, was the #1 agent in Oklahoma and knew no one here. I mean, it's amazing what you can do.
I believe I did about $6 million my first year.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's
And
great.
that's with no sphere, and that's not
That's
with like
great.
Zillow leads or anything like that. It was social media and open houses.
And for those of you who don't live in Oklahoma, our average house
Yes.
is like $270,000. So to sell $6 million, it's not like you're in California selling a mansion or two.
Yeah.
So you hustled.
And the other thing too, when you're from Oklahoma, it's not so much as what used to be, but the first question people ask you is, where did you go to high school? To find out if you're from here or not. Because if you're not, then it's a little suspect. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's a little harder for people to break through that. Or I think especially in Tulsa, it's really changed because we have so many people now from other places. But I just think that would be a difficult thing because you didn't have that immediate trustability of, because they're trying to figure out who you know that they know, and can I trust them?
So what was your breakthrough moment? I mean, like, when did you know you're hustling, you're not making any money, and then all of a sudden the dam breaks?
Well, I think recognizing that I needed to get to know people really quickly. I recognized that. And so I
build a sphere.
Yes. Yeah. Like recognizing I needed a sphere was the big thing. So I was at open houses and I would post about it. And I started following a lot of people that were kind of like, would be maybe like influencers in the city and that kind of stuff. And I started connecting with them. And then they started, or I would tag them at something, and they would start resharing my stuff.
It's all about relationships.
Yes, and I would go to restaurants that were like really popular at the time that just opened, and then I would post a story and I would tag them, and they would reshare my post. And so it started making me look like, even though I wasn't a native, it really made me look like I was very tied into what was happening in the city. And I was. That wasn't just like an act. I was really putting myself out there to find out what's going on in the city and like what events are happening, and making sure that I was there.
And it's fun and interesting on top of, it has to be organic. If you're there strictly for the, I want to meet people to do business with, they can see through it.
I will never again go to one of those networking groups where you take and you put your business card down, you shake hands. Literally, that is not networking.
No.
That is.
But for some people, that is because that's the most that they want to do, or you know what I mean? I think
if it works for you.
Again, it goes to the level of where you want to land. And I think that what you're saying, but I think anybody listening who is a newer agent should rewind and listen to what you just said, because I think that is, it's so easy. And you know what? Even for me, I mean, I'm at the age now where, you know, I was married for so many years and we just kind of didn't do as much. You just don't. And so now I'm kind of like, wow, I don't know as many people. I mean, my friends have retired, a lot of them, and gone on. So it's like I'm having to get back out there and do that same kind of thing. And it's fun. I mean, it's interesting, and you meet really cool people. Yeah.
So that was the big break for me, was recognizing that I needed to get tied into the city, that I needed to get connected.
I love that,
and
Sarah.
So like for me, I did open houses, and then I would follow the people that signed in on like social media. I would follow them,
smart.
And they would follow me back. And so we would just start messaging back and forth, and it was like very organic. I'm not very salesy. Those that know me would know that I just like connecting with people. And so,
which is the greatest form of sales there is.
Yes, it is.
So it was just like after I did that first deal, and it was just kind of like it broke. And then, you know, I started, you know, my ex was in law school and he graduated with that. And so I started helping a lot of his friends buy their first home. And then I worked my way up to like the partners of the law firms, and I started working with them and doing deals with that. And so I just made it look like I had so much going on. And
so you started
until I actually
did. And one of the songs on Taylor Swift's album is all about the fake it till you make it. You know,
and that is what
I can succeed with a broken heart.
You weren't here years ago. There was a psychic named Aze, I think was her name. It was her tagline, "Fake it till you make it." So funny how that now has become like a national thing. But I remember, "Fake it till you make it." So basically, then what you're saying is you did two things. You built from scratch a center of influence with that, everything you just discussed, but at the same time you already had your husband's law school friends. So that was one that was sort of, you could kind of work what was actually your existing network available to you.
Right. We used to joke about like he'd get you out of the big house and I'll get you in a new house.
That's cute.
So
you should coin that. That's pretty good. I mean, like, trademark that.
But yeah, I was really big on social media, and I know you are huge on social media, but that was social media, and that was like my thing. I was so good at it, and I love shoes, and so I did like hashtags shoes and showings, and so I would like take a picture of what shoes I'm wearing with a cool rug, or like whatever floors that I'm out about, to the point where like inspectors would be like, "What shoes are you wearing today?"
And people want something that makes you interesting. Like if it's just about houses and they're not into buying a house, you're going to lose them pretty quickly if you don't have something else that's fun or interesting and specific, you know.
Right.
It also helps you find your type of person. I think that's underestimated a lot. We're so like about scattershotting, but it's really kind of laser focusing on what kind of person is going to connect to me and trust me to do their deal. And so they're getting to know you as a person. Like they know, oh, she likes shoes and she likes fashion. I could get along with her and spend a couple of days with her finding a house.
Right. And
Same thing when you post about your dogs or, you know,
Absolutely.
out jogging or, you know, whatever, that's a connection point there.
And I started attracting very like-minded people because I think like I was putting out my personality, and I think, and I tell so many agents is be authentic. And even though like I was like faking it and how busy I was very much putting my personality out there. I'm very colorful, and so my feed was very colorful, and you know, I would post my dog. And
can I ask you a question? So when you were doing that in that process, did you start kind of figuring out a little bit who you were too?
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's the one thing that's kind of cool, and I think that's overlooked, is that when you start doing that, you know, everyone goes, I don't know who I am to go out and do that. And I think that's a very valid point. So just start posting about things that you really are passionate about or that are interesting in your life that are not political or religious.
Yes.
Preferably.
Stay away from those.
Just because we don't do that unless, you know, that's your real sphere of, I mean, if that's where you want to go, then go there, but that's going to be a very small circle. But that's interesting because I think so often I've seen people evolve on social media, and it's almost fun to watch the evolution. It's more fun to me to watch the evolution at this age of my life than I really care about all the stuff, you know, but it's like just seeing them build and success and like finding their sophistication and finding what is really interesting to them or their mission. So that's cool.
It's your brand too.
Yeah.
And you know,
and eventually you land on your brand because you figure out what it is.
But if you don't figure that out somewhat, even if you meet with the marketing department, you know, what your logo is going to look like, what your feed's going to look like, your signs, whatever, pictures. And I think sometimes we make the brand so hard, but I think if you can self-discover that, that is such a powerful thing. Because when you break down a brand, basically the bottom line is it's your reputation. It's what people think of when they think of you.
Yeah.
So you did that very organically.
And I love like Kristen Chenoweth, my friend, always says, be you because everybody else is taken. And I love that. Like we tell our kids that, be you, everybody else is taken. Don't try to be somebody else. So you were learning who you were.
You're never going to find yourself if you don't put yourself out there.
Ooh, that's the quote of the podcast right there.
What did I say? I said you're never going to find yourself if you don't put yourself out there.
Love that.
And there's always this great thing called the delete button. So if you don't like it, you can delete it.
Delete.
Trash. And so there were posts that I'm like, I would post this and I'm like, a little bit later I go back and I'm like, it's throwing off my whole feed and I hate it. So I just delete it. It's not me. Or like, and so
the only thing I would say that would not be the case on that is if you've had a few cocktails, maybe you should not go on and be giving, you know, words of advice because it is hard to delete it fast enough
before somebody gets a screenshot.
I'm not saying that I have done that.
No, I think So I think just putting yourself out there, and I think a lot of people thought that I was like spending so much time with my posts, and honestly, it was very quick. And I think it's just saving like things that inspired me. And it was
if it's organic, it doesn't take a whole lot of pages.
It was like snapping my shoes and posting it. There wasn't like a ton of thought. And I think people spend so much time. They're like, well, I need to come up with a plan and I need to come up with a design and I need to.
How did you first come up with that? Was it like you took a random picture and your shoes were in and you thought,
well, we were in so many cool homes, and like so many cool homes nowadays have like interesting tiles and floors and like. And I just like looked down one day and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. And I just took it and then just kind of spiraled from there.
And you have cute feet. Cool. That helps too.
I have good shoes.
Let's not go down the foot thing. That direction. Your mom and dad may be listening, so we're not going to talk about that. No, okay. So we go on from that. So then,
so you're killing it.
You're killing it. How long were you in OKC, and were you a manager there or were you strictly an agent?
I was strictly an agent there.
Okay.
And I love that. And I didn't see myself at that point becoming a broker. It was just, I loved being an agent so much. And it was just, every day was different. Still every day is different as a broker.
And at that time, you were in a marriage and you had two incomes and different stability factors.
Very different back there.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 3 years before we moved to Tulsa.
Okay.
Which Tulsa was home for him.
Okay.
And so we moved here, and so we moved during COVID.
Wow.
God bless you. So you made so many friends during that period of time, right?
Right.
Well, no, not at all. So I moved to this new city. It's 2020, in the summer of 2020, when everything's still kicking off. I got COVID like the last day of August. I ended up being hospitalized for 8 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I almost died from that. Like by the time like I was admitted to the hospital, like kidneys were shutting down, liver was shutting down.
Whoa.
I had to be basically on bed rest for like 2 to 3 months afterwards for my lungs to recover.
Well, welcome to Tulsa.
Yes. So,
Wow.
No, I
Oh
was
my
not
gosh.
making friends during that time.
Wow.
So it was just really like a hard time in my life of just going from having such an active life in OKC and being so connected to like now I am feel weak and we're somewhere I don't know the area.
And thank you for not taking that out on Tulsa, because it would have been really easy not to want to live here with all
I'm
that
going to be honest, I didn't like it in the beginning, and I really didn't, because I had such this, people weren't going out at that time. We were all very isolated, and I was in extreme isolation because I was on so much steroids at the time. I couldn't be around people because if I got anything else, it would be really bad for me. And so I was just scared of the world for a little bit for that summer. And
I don't know a whole lot of people that go, man, I just love that period.
It was tough.
A little bit of self-discovery.
And then I went through a divorce. Yes, we'll
life
go into
changes,
that.
doesn't
So,
it? Okay.
And there is nothing that, I think a lot of men and women, when your back is against the wall, it will light a fire in you. And that is what happened.
You have two choices: fall apart or go forward.
So it was go back home. And I just knew I did not want to do that.
And that would have been California.
That would have been California. I love my parents, but I just knew that I could not go back home at that time. And so I said, I'm staying in Tulsa. I didn't have a plan. At that point, I didn't have a sphere. I didn't know anyone.
But you had done that before, 3 years before. So you knew you could do it.
But I'd never been on my own, though. And so I actually never lived on my own up until that point. So
At all?
At all. No.
Wow. So you went from your parents, living with your parents,
spouse, yes.
Oh, wow. So you really are enjoying your Netflix
time.
Yeah.
So I was just on my own, and this life is so different for me. And I just thought, I'm going to try it. The plan was give it a year, Sarah. And whatever you have in savings will probably all be gone and then you'll go home.
Yeah.
But at least try it. And that was my thought. And I think it was less than a month after my divorce, I got my broker's license. And my whole idea was behind that. My whole idea behind that was it'll give me a little edge here in Tulsa.
I'll be an actual broker.
Yeah. So it was just in title. It wasn't managing broker was my idea. And the firm that I was at, I had bought the classes and I just thought, I'm just going to get this. I need this right now.
So let's go through that for people that are listening who are not agents or real estate people. In Oklahoma, you have brokers and you have agents or associates. And so if you're an associate and you don't have your brokerage license, you can't operate by yourself. You have to operate under, I'm an associate, I operate under the brokerage of Chinowth Cohen. And if you're a manager of an office, you have to be a broker. You can't be an associate. So it's one level higher in that whole education and certification, and allows you to manage people and just more knowledge, basically.
And the realtor test is hard enough. I can't imagine the brokerage test.
Yeah.
So I just was I'm going to do it. And it's so much harder because actually when you take your license, you don't know anything about this business. But as a broker, you're sitting there going as an agent taking you're wait a minute, I've kind of seen both of these happen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it actually is harder to take it because
that's
you have
what I would
knowledge
think, yeah.
of the business.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I was I'm going to get this. And so I start taking the class, and the brokers that I joined here in Tulsa, the broker came in and was I'm moving. And he was finish your schooling. The job is yours. And I was okay. Surprise.
Is there salary? Do I have insurance?
I had nothing else going at the time, so I was like, sure.
How many weeks of vacation am I going to get?
You're just happy to be alive at that point.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm out of the house, so
Yeah.
I was excited. I was around people.
Right.
So, and that is kind of where a little bit of my life is
So
just
literally just kind of
lightning
fell
striking.
and-
Just,
yeah.
And I think there is a lot of things being at the right place at the right time.
But also seeing that right place at the right time and be willing to take the leap.
Well, and let's back it up. You weren't just in the right, you were actually doing proactive things that then allowed that to happen.
Yes.
It wasn't like you were just sitting at Schwab's and you got
Waiting.
discovered by, you were literally
You were making
proactively
it happen.
improving yourself, and that puts you there. So yeah, that's cool. Very
And
cool.
So I loved it instantly. I think connecting with the agents, and I've always been, I think it's a little bit of the ministry background. I will work so much harder for other people than I will for myself sometimes. And so just like,
You'll get past it.
so I really connected with the agents there, and I
love
just
that.
loved it. And so that's how I became a broker, and I haven't looked back. And
So let's talk about what it is that you love so much about being a manager, broker. What is it you like about being here at Chinowth and Cohen?
What I like about being a broker, I love seeing people challenge themselves, and I like thinking they can't do it, and like I think I'm going to pass this on to someone else, and I'm like, no, I think let's stick with this. Like, you need to learn. I'll guide you through it, but like,
I'm going to be here for you, but you're going to do it.
Yes. So watching someone succeed, like that first deal that a new agent closes,
it's so scary.
It is so terrifying, but like, it's so rewarding when they do that, and getting to celebrate and seeing that and being a part of someone else's success. Like, I love that.
I think we forget, even just sitting at a broker's or an open house, and what somebody asked me, and I'm not going to know the answer to that. Like, you have to get so past your fears of not being good enough or not knowing enough. And as a manager, you've got to help them through that and get out there and get going.
And as an agent, you only get to sell your first house once. You do get to experience this every day. That's awesome.
And this another thing is that, like, I never know what my day is going to look like. My mom likes to, like, I talked to her today. She's like, oh, you're gonna have a busy day? I'm like, I have no idea. When I walk into the office, I never know what we're going to be hit with.
You just got kidnapped by Jack and
we
Cindy.
did not tell her she was doing this today. So she really didn't do, like, this is no prep.
You never know. And so I love that. I love that it's so spontaneous.
It's a very impromptu business. Yeah.
Yes. I could be like, someone could say, hey, come look at this beautiful home. And I still love looking at homes and touring homes. I love that. So just having access to amazing homes, and just, so I just never know what's going to happen in my day.
I love whenever people say, I'm going to go into real estate. And I go, oh, why? They go, because I want to work my own hours. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is not
You'll work
quite
some
how
hours,
it works,
all right.
Okay. I'll see you in a year, or I won't.
So it's just seeing people grow. I love watching others grow, and I think that's one of my favorite things about being a broker is just watching.
And I watch you, like,
watching it click. With
people.
And
I watch people come in and sit in your office week after week after week, and I mean, you literally do take that time. If somebody wants to give that time, I see you giving that time to them to build them and to help them, and it's so huge. And I think you would have to have a heart for that.
Yeah.
In order to really do that well.
No, because your agents they're texting you at 10 o'clock at night. Like, I don't know.
No, we never do that. What are you talking about? Wink, wink, wink.
You know, so I am available.
I am going. Have you watched Baby Reindeer?
That
is true. Oh, and I have a deal. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
I do. I have one agent that just sends me a bunch of memes.
I love it.
Like, she'll ask me a question, and then it'll be just like 5 memes right after.
You're like, we resolved. Okay.
Yeah. So I have like different relationships with each agent, and so that's fun to me. But what I love about Chinowth is that we are a big company, but we still feel like, and we're local and we're family owned, and you still feel that. Like, I don't believe we've lost that. And
which is so important to me.
Yeah,
it is
me
very
too.
important to me. I don't want to be part of this big company where you just get lost in the mix. And
well, Leland was on our podcast last week, and he was saying that, and this is true, that the culture of the company, they have let big producers go. And I've been around when that happened, when somebody's values were not the same as ours, and the company was willing to let go of that money coming in to let that person go on because it didn't fit into our culture, and they really worked to keep that culture, and that is what has kept that feeling. And I started when it was, I think, 380 agents, and that was, at the time, was a nice sized company, but it was nothing compared to where we are now, and it feels very similar to what it felt like at that time. So
so I love knowing that. So I like that. I think that there are so many mentors for even me as a broker that I can go to within the company. I can pick up the phone and call Cheryl, and Rose Ford, our broker at South, I would probably consider her my mentor.
She's amazing. And for those of you who don't know, she
was my first manager here.
Oh, really?
Office, yeah.
So Sarah's at our Midtown office where Jack is, and then Rose is at our South office where I am. So,
and she's been with the company, I believe.
Oh, she was from the original.
Yes. And so I can pick up the phone and call her, and she gets it. In the beginning when it was just, I was trying to figure out,
and you're working
you're
a broker working under a broker. So you're under the brokerage as a broker. So your job is to do the right thing as a broker, but you still have to follow the structure and the instruction of the brokerage, which is, so that's where we get into the culture of it.
So, just trying to learn the personalities of the office, and it was a lot in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And so Rose was just there to talk me through it and encourage me, and it meant so much to me. So I love that I have that. I love that I have people that I can go to, because I'm going to be honest, there are things that pop up that I don't know the answer to.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Of course.
And
I've done this for so many years, and the thing that I love the most about it is I literally learn something every deal, every single deal.
When you think you can't learn anything else, there's something.
It may be a really tiny little thing that you go, that's interesting, or it may be something that you go, how in the heck have I never had this come up before? And it's always, sometimes it's gut wrenching, but after it's over, you're like, wow, that was cool to learn that.
Don't want to do that again.
And it allows us as mentors to all these agents, like I remember my first manager, not Rose, but with another company, and we went to an inspection, and the electrician said, there's reverse polarity all over this house. And John and I went to the manager, we're like, this deal is going to blow. There's reverse polarity all over the house. And she said, boys, sit down. She was probably like 60 at the time. I seemed a lot older to me, but now that I'm almost that age. And she goes, honeys, I'm just going to tell you, this is what happens with reverse polarity. You pull the plug out, they unscrew this side, and they turn the wires like this, and they screw it back in, and they push it in. She goes, reverse polarity fixed. So as a manager, as a mentor, like so much of the time, we didn't know. And so having somebody that we could come to who would sit us down and say, this is what it is. So, I mean, that's fun. And
not roll their eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
Laugh with them, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I met with a new agent yesterday, and she was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is so much. And I'm like, no, you can do it. I know it just seems so foreign right now, but like, you get to the point where it just becomes like second nature to you, but it's like,
or at least try.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be too much for you, but at least try.
But I remember that being an agent. I remember the first time somebody said that they wanted to put an offer, and I wasn't even excited. I just thought, oh crap.
I have to really do this.
I have to write a contract. I was not excited at all. And I'm calling my broker, like, they want to write an offer. Because I did my job right.
I like the shoes part, and I like the house part.
I like taking pictures, but I don't want to write this.
private bedroom. I didn't sign up for this army. I signed up for the one with the curtains and the.
And there's so many details and so much at stake when no matter what the price of the home.
Oh.
This is somebody's
And it's
home they're buying or
important.
selling.
Every
Yes.
detail.
So important.
I think that's the thing too. If that also shows your character, because you understood from the beginning, this is a big deal, and now I need to do it correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it kills me still. We do everything digitally now, and so some of the time you'll have like something may be wrong when you send it to somebody to sign, and you say review before you sign, and then they'll find like a date that was a little bit, a couple of days off or something, and I just feel like the biggest failure. I mean, I have to remind myself, it's we can fix this. We're going to fix this, but it's like it is a big deal to get things right. It is. As best you can.
I love that our company has a really strict compliance department.
We have audits. Every file, every step you get audited.
Because no matter how meticulous you are and detail oriented, there's going to be a mistake or you're going to have left something off. So Sarah and Rose, all these people going through and helping us get those initials or the changes is a huge help for me. And
then they keep those files, so we have them for record, and it keeps us from having to keep as much stuff.
And I always worry about some of these brokerages that they don't have a compliance department or they don't have
terrify me.
Oh, me too. Or there isn't a broker right there that they can talk to. I just, wow. Yeah. It's because it's a lot.
When it's always funny too, whenever I ask them for certain documents that I'm being told, and I'll say, oh, we missed this and this is required. And they're like, I don't have that. Oh my gosh. I mean, like,
yeah.
So yeah, it is great to have that backup. It's annoying sometimes, Sarah. I'm not going to lie that it can be annoying, but I am grateful for it.
Thank you. Thank you for slipping that in.
What made you choose Chinowth Cohen? Why did you leave where you were and come here?
Honestly, it was another thing of just putting myself I didn't necessarily choose them. In a way, they kind of found me.
And again, I think that you've done all the right things, right time, right place.
So the brokerage that I was at, the agents had left, and apparently they were just like, well, but we love her. And we
That's
want
right.
her.
That's exactly
and
what it
so
was. Yeah.
That's how it was. And so so they were like, okay, have her come in and chat with us.
And we just, and you know what, we kind of, the midtown office, we were kind of looking for new energy. We did a whole renovation of everything has been renovated inside the office.
It needed it.
And it was
but it's one of our older offices. Most of our other offices are new.
Well, and I've been sitting at my desk now for I think 16 years or 14. Wow. It's crazy. I filled every shredder box in this building 3 times because I finally deep dove into all my old files in my office, and it was crazy finding things from 07 and 08 that were filed in that area because that's when I was in there. No, but the thing that's so interesting is that we were looking for that, or as a company and as a satellite, we were really just wanting some new young energy, to come in, and so that was a perfect fit at that time for you to come, and it's been so great to have you there. Now, with that in mind, as far as other agents who may be looking to start in the business or change and want to, or watching this because they're sort of shopping around for an office or a brokerage, I mean, what are the things that you would say to somebody if you were trying to get them to sign up with us?
Do they already have their license or no?
Either one. I mean,
I think it's
talk about either one or both. Yeah.
I think you need to be passionate about it. I see so many people that they watch a show and they think it's just going to be fun and I'm going to do this on the side. I don't think that this job is a hobby.
You mean this isn't all fun?
Wait, I don't get to drive a Ferrari and wear Jimmy Choo shoes everywhere?
You get to, but you got to pay the bill.
And there are some that do that.
Yeah, and God bless them.
Yeah, God bless them.
If I'm wearing Jimmy Choos, I probably found it at Goodwill. But I think you really need to be passionate about this in this business because you are helping people with the biggest purchase that they will ever make in their life. And sometimes I struggle with some people come in, I'm just going to do this part-time and just if something pops up, I just might help a relative. But it's are you staying on top of your continuing education. Do you really know what's going on?
And what are you paying every month for that privilege?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want passionate people to join. I'm not saying that you can't do this on the side as you build your business. Absolutely, you can. I've seen people do it. But
so you're basically saying know what you're trying to achieve.
Understand what it is that we do. I don't think I think a lot of people don't understand how much work we put into this. A lot of people think that it's just showing houses and that's it. And it's not. It's you're at inspections. You're at the I've had so many clients that say, "Oh, this was so easy. This was," and that's
your mind is you're like,
and I am like,
yeah, for you, we made it easy.
I am about to have a nervous breakdown. But that's what our job.
But that is why we get paid.
And that's why we get paid. And I think we talk about this whole lawsuit. I don't think people understand it because sometimes we've done our job so well that they think it's easy.
Yeah.
And COVID,
catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah. And COVID,
you don't know who I was just yelling at 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And COVID with homes selling so quickly, you're like, oh, clearly it's easy. You know.
So I think it's just understanding what realtors do, and I think that we have a responsibility to educate the public and our clients.
Our value statement.
Our value of what our job is. And so I really want people to be in this business who are passionate, that genuinely love it. If they already have their license, then they want to come on. Having access to so many departments and so many leaders in this industry in our town, I think is huge. The fact that we are locally owned and family owned, but we don't really operate as that. We have access to so many things globally, nationwide. And so having that reach is really important. First of all, our education center.
We didn't even talk about that with Leland.
It's one of my favorite things that we have. I go and take classes. I love our classes. And
they're free.
They are free.
And they're so varied. It's not just like the very typical what we need to have continuing ed, but then it's also ones about how to balance your checkbook or there's so many different things you can go into. It's really cool.
Yes. So one of my favorite things, and I love to talk to new agents about, is our education department. First of all, it can be a lonely business sometimes. And so making friends that understand what you're going through and the challenges and the frustrations. And I think these new agents, they go to our classes and they meet other agents from other offices. And hey, now you have a friend that you can go to Brokers Opens with. And I love that, is getting connected within our companies. And I think that's really important.
We do the Midtown Connect meeting, which is every 2 weeks.
What's that?
Every 2 weeks we get together as an office and we discuss, what's happening, what changes are coming down. But then it's also we did a whole thing where we really talked about how do you invest your money when you're in this business so that you don't get caught without, how do you put money back for your taxes? All those things that those of us have been in the business a long time who've made a lot of mistakes. It's not do this because I've been perfect. It's do this because I was not. And I don't want to see you go down that path. So there's such that part of it that we've really tried to implement since you've been here, of really if you want to be kind of you feel like you're on a team, because we were talking about teams with Leland. There's that part where you want to feel like you get the benefits from a team. And I think one thing you're getting to where you can kind of feel like you're on a team from that standpoint, but not.
And that's what I tell new agents, because they ask about that. What about a team? And I'm like, and I think maybe at other firms in the city, I can't speak for them, but their brokers may be heavily busy working with clients. And I'm not that. I do some deals, personal deals here and there, but I'm here. I'm in the office. I'm here. I usually get in a little bit early, and I'm here until we close. And I'm that person. I'm your person that you call when you have a question, and I'm not going to take, part of your commission from that.
It's a hard call. I think it's because it is you want. I like that you still do some business so that you're staying in the market and you understand the market and what's happening. But at the same time, I don't want to feel like I'm going up against you for a listing. So I think that's a really interesting.
I had that once and it was really weird.
It is strange.
Yeah. I don't do that. I'm kind of like a non-competing broker is what I like to say.
And we are all competitive people to be in this business. So it can turn a very working relationship into a very adversarial relationship from then on, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I just take personal deals that come to me. Like no leads that come into the office I will ever take or anything like that. That's all passed on to the agents. But it's good for me to get that refresher of that stress of being in a deal to really remind myself of what our agents are dealing with on a daily basis.
So we talked about all the global things. Let's talk about the local things. So what is it that would, like, what if you're telling somebody why they should come work with you specifically at this office, what would you say is your main thing that you think you bring to the table for them?
You and I always talk about the magic of the office.
Yeah.
And like, I believe in coming to the office.
Yeah.
And
amen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more productive when I'm in the office.
Yeah.
And when I started out, I kept it like a regular job. I got up, I went to the office. I had nothing going on, but I was like looking at to see what was coming on the market, and then I would go tour it myself if it was vacant, and I would just get to know. So
it's so important.
And I'm not going to say about this for myself, but our office, we have so many great agents in this office, and I see new agents come in and they're sitting at the computer bank and just having these conversations, and everyone is willing to help. You are willing to like mentor someone.
Amen.
And I think that is such a great thing about our office. We have an amazing admin, Allie.
Yeah. Oh,
she's great.
Wow.
Yes, like,
yeah.
Used to be at the South office.
Yeah, and she's not going back. I will fight someone in the parking lot for her.
We will cut.
Yes. And so I think that a lot of times as new agents, you don't think about that, but who is your admin?
Well, and I will tell you, as a seasoned person and who is at the office most of the time, when I see a new agent who's sitting at the computer doing something, not just being on their Facebook, not that there's wrong, that can be a networking thing too, but it's like if they're really doing things, working on their CRM, working on education, their posts, whatever. If I see them here and doing that, I'm much more likely to ask them to sit at my open house, because I feel like that's a person who's showing up, doing the work when they're not making anything. Like this is actually costing them time and potential of other things because they want this. So for me, the magic of the office for them is that person deserves a break. They deserve a chance. They deserve knowledge that I can help them with. And, let's be honest, it's easier to give knowledge whenever you're walking past somebody at the computer bank than it is, I'm not going to seek you out at your house.
Right.
I just, that's where I think the magic of it doesn't mean you have to come every day, all day, or stay. It doesn't hurt. But the other thing too, you were talking about it being an impromptu thing. If I'm sitting at home, which I've done, in my sweats, doing laundry, you've had open house, whatever, and the phone rings and someone wants to see a house in 15 minutes. I can show up in my sweats, which I've done. I can hurry and get dressed and go. But if I'm here already in my office, and sometimes I'm here doing things that don't have anything to do with real estate, but I'm in my office dressed and ready to go, then if that happens, I'm ready to jump. And I think that's a lot of it too, is that you miss opportunity, or you'll find it a reason not to go do the thing, that you need to do. Like, if you're in your office and somebody says, I'm going to Brokers Open, come with me. Yeah, let's go. Then you may see a house that fits somebody you would never have seen a house before. It's the little things. It's the networking at the computer, where I need, this client has this need. And I mean, you sit right by the computer, which I love that. So you listen to all that going on. And I've seen you even say, hey, so-and-so has a listing coming up that would be good for that. And deals have been put together.
I literally, two things I love about the office, I literally got one of my first luxury listings. And I was telling the agent beside me, I'm like, I'm so excited. She goes, I have somebody who is looking for that exact house.
Magic of
from
the
that,
office.
exactly, from that
office.
exact builder.
And
it wasn't a new house, but it was a few years old. And we had a pending on it in 3 days.
Yeah.
Or when, I didn't know anything and would sit there and just ponder and who am I going to talk to? And I would just walk out to the computer bank and ask the question. And all of a sudden we're in a 15-minute, I'm learning, like drinking out of the fire hose, because these knowledgeable agents are willing to share.
And that's what my first broker taught me, was just like, let's listen to other people's conversations, just hear how they're handling things, like the conversations that are being had. And so I would just like sit. I'm like, it sounds like I was just being nosy, but it kind of was. But I was just like learning and like just absorbing everything around me.
It cracks me up now because John, when we first started the business, there'd be these like very seasoned agents, that were sometimes an older woman who had been in the business forever. And we would be like, oh my gosh, they are so rude. Like, I can't believe it. And now I'm like, oh, totally get it. Like, I mean, they've been through everything. They've seen it all. So you're like, freaking out and I'm going to buy that refrigerator. And they're like, I'm not, and it's like, now you understand where they're coming from. There's times to do those things and there's times not to. And you've been in the business long enough. So sometimes having someone to be honest with you and say, you might rethink that, and here's why.
Right.
But I think like having, especially a new agent, having Chinowth Cohen have your back, kind of. I mean, being able to use their reputation, because we've been voted the best. I don't even know how many years in a row. And so having that, like, hey, I just got my license, but I'm with Chinowth Cohen, and we're known for this.
It's
and
also that hometown hero thing. Where it's difficult to be a hometown hero within your own home. Like I think sometimes nationally, I mean, I've been at conferences and people will say, you're with Chinowth Cohen? Oh my gosh. So have you ever met Cheryl Chinowth? Like, I had lunch with her yesterday. I mean, like, it is sort of funny how it's almost a mythical thing in so many other markets, but sometimes here that doesn't get us, much notice because we're just the company.
When we expanded to Oklahoma City, one of my dearest friends from college decided to get her license, and she was interviewing with everyone, and we were like literally opening the office that week, and I said, well, you have to go with Chinowth Cohen, and she's looking at me like, I don't know anything about them. I'm like, trust me. And Leland actually sat down and met with her, and she called me and she goes, yep, I'm definitely doing this one.
It's impressive.
And that's what's so cool too. Like I will say, I mean, you're slightly younger than me, so I think that it's so cool.
I was just gonna let that sit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Until the camera stopped rolling. I would say though, what's cool to me though is now seeing, because I was probably not far off from your age whenever I started here, a little bit older, but to see now this generation's twist and stamp on the process and how, so it's like there's an evolution. The standards, the basics exist, but it's a changing market. The social media was almost non-existent when I first started here, and now it's
you had MySpace.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting seeing the evolution and seeing the new people coming in and putting their own spin on it. But I think it's also everyone always thinks that Chinowth Cohen's been around for 100 years. Like it has the feeling of, like an old family company, and it's really not that old.
20 years.
Yeah, 20, which I guess like you and I talking about old house versus new house.
Yeah.
I mean, 20-year-old company is, but I mean, it's not like it's something that was established, at the beginning of time,
right?
Like a lot of things, but it's such a compliment that people have that perception because the brand and our growth in the community and being here has been so good.
And I had an agent come from a smaller firm that is actually, it's a smaller here, but it is a global company. And he came over to Chinowth Cohen and he gave someone their card. And this person was like, nice, Chinowth Cohen. And he called me, was so excited that they recognized the brokerage.
That's awesome.
When we changed, it was unbelievable. Within 2 weeks, we had 3 big house people that were friends of ours that had big houses that listed, and they said, we've been just waiting for you to go to them.
Wow.
Like it was so interesting that the difference, and I was with a great company, but it wasn't like the cachet that they wanted was Chinowth Cohen.
Right. And I think it's, locally owned and operated by a family that we can actually talk to. Also, our marketing department keeps our branding so spot on that we're able to deliver these amazing materials that show, we care. We're willing to go the nth degree. We're not just, fly by night or throwing it together.
I think
the culture.
One of my favorite stories though is I was at Trader Joe's and this lady was like, where do you work? And we're just having a conversation. I said, Chinowth Cohen. And she's like, oh my goodness, I love Kristen. She's my favorite actress. She's like, have you met her? And I was like, yes, I actually have met her, but like Not
Do you know
the
how
same.
confusing it is though? Because my company is Chinowth Cohen that I work with, and then the camp that I do is with my best friend, is Kristen Chinowth, which they're both spelled differently. The only good news is that because they're spelled differently, I know which one I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And but it's also interesting because it's like so many times going, how in the heck did I end up Chinowth? Like it's my whole life.
It's so funny.
So interesting.
But I was like, I actually have, but not because of
and
that.
then everyone
but-
thought that Cheryl and Kristen were sisters, and they had never met. And then through John and I, they've gotten to be good friends. And so it's sort of interesting how through the years that all has come around. Yeah. So I'm sure it's probably helped each of them.
Yeah.
So
wrapping up, what kinds of words of wisdom do you want to give agents out there, or you get real about whatever you want?
I think it's just like what I talked about earlier. Just get out and do it.
Mm-hmm. Get out of your own way.
Yes. You don't have to always have a plan, and people want to write like I'm going to follow this path and I'm going to just get out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a script of what I was going to do. I just did it. And so don't sit at home waiting for it to come to you. You got to go out and find it.
It's almost like the train, putting the train tracks down as the train's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have a direction, you want to go west, but sometimes you just are doing it at the same time where you're figuring out where you're going. But I think having real goals, and we talked about kind of the fake it till you make it, but I think there has to be substance behind that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to deliver.
you can only fake it so long before you're discovered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think, if you're watching podcasts, if you're going to the classes, if you're talking with your broker, if you're doing all those things that make it successful,
Mm-hmm.
then the fake it till you make it, you will, because perception's reality.
It's like having a full tank of gas with no trips planned.
Yeah.
But you're ready. You can go when
I
that
like
time
that.
comes, like you're ready to go. But like so it's just like, I think a lot of people wait for that moment to happen and then you're like, oh my goodness, I got to do all these things. And it's like, no, prepare yourself for when that moment comes, because right now is the best time to learn this business, to learn your contracts, to just grow as an agent. And like, once you're in the deal, you don't have time to sit and review and read the contracts. You're so busy. So like, take that time to invest in yourself.
Nice.
And I like to think in the words of Gloria Gaynor. At first, I was afraid. I
was
was
petrified.
petrified. Thought I could never live without you by my side. But now I'm back. I mean, I think that's the thing too. Like you get to keep reinventing yourself.
Absolutely.
And you
I'm
get
in
to
my
keep
second
telling the person
reinvention,
or the
third
thing that
career.
you thought was going to take you down, they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get to keep going forward. And I think that's what I love about like our relationship and our friendship. And really, we share so much about our journey, and why I was really excited to have you come on, because it is I mean, I think everybody can say this, but it's a journey of survival.
Oh, absolutely.
You make it day by day. And the nice thing is, find someplace. And if it's not here, that's great. Find someplace that's going to support you and have your back, and that you want to come to every day.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love Mondays. I get to go back to the office. And so I hear people like dread going back to work, and I'm like, I love it. I can't wait I don't know who's going to be in the office today. Jack will usually be in the office.
Yeah, I'm here.
But there are the few that like we just see every day, but I never know who's going to pop in or who's going to stop by. And I love that. I love what I do. I love this industry. I love this company and all of our agents, and not just in my office. Like we have so many great agents at different offices and great brokers. And so,
well, we love you.
And I'm just going to say, anybody who is looking for a change or looking to start, and that I would highly suggest, and I don't just do this because of the company. I really don't.
Get real. We're talking about what we really
of my
feel.
word when I really, that's really important to me. And I can say that you would be well served to talk to Sarah if you're really thinking about doing that, because she really will. And the thing I think is nice about you would tell somebody if this isn't for them. And that's important too, because there are people that would come in and say something to you and you would go, I don't think you're ready, but if somebody's ready to do
facts. I want you to have the facts.
Yeah. And I think you can trust yourself that if you are ready to make it, even thinking about it. I mean, I think that's oftentimes people start thinking early on and they're not ready to do it, but they wait until they're really serious. If you're kind of thinking about it, this is a good time. It's good to go ahead and start talking to somebody.
Because
Oh,
you
who
may
can
walk
guide
in and
you.
say, this is not for me.
Oh, I have so many
Or
people
how to
that
get
come
education. that you
Mhm.
need.
They come in before they've even taken the class, and I wish that more agents would do that. A lot of people just immediately enroll and get their license, but I'm having people come in and just like tell me about it.
Yeah, I paid for my classes, but I could have had them for free through Chinowth Cohen before I got my license.
Yeah.
But timing is everything, and you and
Right.
Yeah.
and John introduced me to Cheryl.
That's right. And again, we talked about ministry. We talked about all those things. We talked about divorce. We talked about, all of these things are just, it's everybody's story. I mean, everybody has
Everyone
their
has a
story.
story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like, we've talked about all three of our paths and how we got here. And I just think it's the coolest thing about our business because no one knows. I didn't know about yours. I mean, all of your stuff I didn't know about. I mean, like we learn by talking. And maybe somebody out there listening has your exact story and they're having to wear pantyhose right now.
Yeah, God bless.
That is worse than the divorce.
Oh, wow. That says a lot right there.
Well, Sarah,
in Oklahoma humidity.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for spending your
Yes.
time
Thank
and surprised that we sprung this on you.
Thank you for letting me ramble. For
Yeah,
this whole time.
That's
it's
what we
so
do.
awesome to hear your story. And that's what we love about this podcast is it's really two friends sitting around talking. We're just getting real about topics that people have asked us or we think are interesting. And I'm really glad we got to be a part of your story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we will see you next Thursday. Everybody get real.